Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we have an opera singer in the house. First opera singer I get to interview, I think I've ever met in my life, so it's going to be an interesting one. Nice to have you here today, Joshua.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
So, how did you get into opera? What motivates you?
Well, I've always had an interest in singing itself. I've always been singing, casually, a bit for fun and everything else since I can remember. But what interested me was, especially during lockdown, the amount of, in the music industry, the amount of people that would gather around to, to listen online to operas and stuff. You can view them on YouTube for free. A lot of companies broadcasted operas and musicals that normally you'd have to pay for. But I've always had great respect for opera singers with the likes of Pavarotti and Andrea Bocelli, who might not be an opera singer himself, but he is a world-class tenor.
What, as an opera singer, what are you, like a bass, or do they have it like bass, treble?
Yeah, so I'm a tenor. I'm a tenor myself.
What's Pavarotti?
Pavarotti was a very, very good tenor himself. He had an incredibly wide range. He would effortlessly go up to the top notes that tenors often nowadays still struggle with. But because your voice as a man doesn't settle down permanently until you're about 25 or 26. And so I could become a bass in the next couple of years for all I know.
So the most popular singers, what are they, bass singers? Pavarotti, he's the main flagship singer.
Yeah, so he was very well known for bringing classical music to the modern world. He would do, joint gigs and joint work with modern artists. He would bring opera to the newer, younger population. Okay. He's passed now, but...
he's dead?
Yeah, he is dead. Yeah, he died quite a few years ago.
Okay.
But
what's the difference between classical and opera?
Not much. It's just operas themselves haven't just been made in the classical period. You have operas being made, right up until this day. So you can do an opera, made and designed and orchestrated in 2012, or you can do an opera made and designed in 1880 or in the 1600s. Whereas classical is a period of musical time. So the likes of Romantic, the Baroque period, the Romantic period, the classical period.
Is that like Beethoven, Mozart?
Yes, yeah. So Beethoven and Mozart would be, if I'm not mistaken, classical. You then have, different composers would fit into different categories. So you've got the likes of Haydn. Newer ones such as John Ireland would be considered modern, even though they were around in the 20th century. So,
if you could sing with anybody, who would you sing with?
That would be hard, because I would love to sing with Pavarotti himself. I think it would be an extremely powerful experience, personally. I think, but if I had to pick someone in the more modern times, I think it would be someone like Ed Sheeran. Or
really,
he's got a very nice tone. It's a very consistent and even tone, whereas some modern pop singers can have a bit of a tone that sometimes cracks or shifts across their range, whereas Ed Sheeran has this beautifully resonant range from his very bottom to the very top.
You're a real connoisseur at what you do, innit? I know, so I'm thinking, because you justified, I was thinking he's popping, Ed Sheeran?
Yes, I think he does more categories, but I think his main kind of genre would be classed as pop.
Your background, is your parents singers? Are they musicians?
No, so my mother is a priest, and so I've always had a very close link to the Church of England. But I've always been singing, on a Sunday. I've always had that kind of input, or vocal input. My father isn't musical in the slightest, really. However, I've always had an interest in listening to music. I'm always listening to music, traveling, working, anything that will involve music for me. So
do you sing alone or sing in a group?
Both.
Like a choir? Is a choir
Yes.
a group?
Yep, a choir's a group. Yep. You're not really limited to just solo or more than one person work. It's operas, if you think of it, operas are not just one person. They're 20, 30, 40 people in an opera singing all different various roles. And so I actually singing in the conservatoire that I'm at the moment, the Royal Welsh. I sing in chamber choir and I work in different choirs back at home as well. And then you also do your solo work, you know, your concerts and your performances on a one-to-one.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have big bands, you could call that as marching music if you're marching to it, or you can, you know, orchestral music.
Okay.
It's hard to class different pieces of music for different types of instruments. I mean, the easiest one, ironically, is singing music, because that's classed as vocal music.
How do you class gospel?
Gospel.
That's a lot of singing. It's kind of, are they hitting similar notes?
Yep. I mean, it all has to do with your range. So if you can't hit the top notes, that doesn't mean it's not gospel to you. It's still gospel, but you can't necessarily sing, you know, as high as the next person would.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily how high or how low you can sing that defines the categories. So gospel music is gospel music to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you can hit that top A is a different question.
Okay. Now, every time we have an artist or a musician or something, we ask them to give us a little piece. Are you ready?
Okay.
What are you going to sing? Doesn't have to be too long.
I'm not currently studying anything that's incredibly famous or well known, but I'll do Silent Noon. It's a shortish piece of music that I've been studying recently. Actually, I actually do know an opera piece from Marriage of Figaro. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Okay.
Here we go. Se vuol ballare, signor contino. Se vuol ballare, signor contino. Io chitarrino le suonerò. Il chitarrino le suonerò. Sì, le suonerò. Sì, le suonerò.
Bravo! You're really good, isn't it? You're really... you know what? It's like you were just turned into an Italian. You're English, yeah?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Farnborough, the South Farnborough of London, but I've lived in Switzerland as well. So I've had a bit of experience with German and French, and then also when you're studying to become an opera singer, you learn Italian, French, and German as well.
So you've just gone to universities which are higher education, all related to your industry?
Yes.
Singing.
Yes.
So you're real dedicated.
Yes, I mean, it would be my dream to be able to sing in an opera in front of hundreds of people and just, you know, perform my heart out.
Okay. Well, my last question to you, you've been a great guest, is what's the impact you want to have on the world?
I want to be able to bring music to not just those people who can afford it, but to people who just want to listen to it. So whether or not, regardless of your background or your ability to, you know, go to London and go into one of the opera musicals and listen to anything, and it costs a huge amount of money. I would want to bring it to the masses, be able to, you know, anyone can afford it, anyone can listen to it and just appreciate the music. Whether or not you like it is down to your own taste, but be able to access it, I think, would be more my thing.
What you sang there was very peaceful.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm ex-military, so it reminds me of something that there's a classic scene in Saving Private Ryan when they're listening to that kind of music.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Have you got a YouTube channel, Instagram, that they can start following you?
I don't have a YouTube channel, but I do have an Instagram, which is josh.d with 5 E's. It's not the most easiest to remember.
Do you want to spell it?
I can spell it, yeah, that's josh.d and then 5 E's after that, sorry.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, all the driver. Thank you.